how to fix it. Next week is Thanksgiving, but this week I'm also thankful. Thankful that we're finally getting the Justice League movie, and it actually looks like it might be good. Wonder Woman was great, so provided that they put a fraction of the effort that Patty Jenkins and her team put into that movie, into this movie, we shouldn't be disappointed. Speaking of disappointments, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. I'm not even gonna do a snappy intro where I beat around the bush. Batman v Superman was absolute garbage. I know I always say it, I hate dark and gritty superhero movies, but I'll be willing to give the darker Tim Burton or Christopher Nolan Batman movies a pass, because those movies are actually good films. Batman v Superman, however, is a tire fire. The film has been out for well over a year, and I'm sure you're all sick of people bashing the movie. And to that I say, too bad. I refused to watch it until recently, and if you follow me on Twitter, you probably saw me live tweet my viewing of the movie. Needless to say, I didn't like it. And since Justice League is a direct sequel to Batman v Superman, there's no better time than now to look at the movie that gave us our first glimpse into the DC Extended Universe. This is Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. I know that despite the name of Basic Summary, I've tended as the episodes go to do a full, in-depth summary. I'm not going to do that here, because if I poured over every single detail of this film, I would go utterly bonkers. The film centers around Bruce Wayne, played by Ben Affleck, who had a rather harrowing experience in Metropolis during Superman's fight with Zod in Man of Steel, as the city is destroyed and Wayne attempts to rescue people from his building, seeing all the wanton destruction. 18 months later, Lois Lane, played by Amy Adams, is in Africa doing an interview with a warlord with her trusty photographer and cub reporter Jimmy Olsen at her side. Olsen, it turns out, is a CIA agent posing as a photographer to get close, and the warlord proceeds to shoot him point blank. Wow. How long into the movie is this? Wow. That's how long it took me to want to bail on this. And how long is the theatrical cut again? This is gonna be a long day. Let's speed things up. Long story short, Superman, played by Henry Cavill, shows up, saves Lois, but causes an international incident. Anyway, while Bruce Wayne wants to stop Superman, Clark Kent wants to stop Batman, seeing his vigilantism as a problem. All the while, Lex Luthor, played by Jesse Eisenberg, is trying to convince Senator Finch to allow him to gain access to Zod's technology and the kryptonite, to no avail. At a LexCorp gala, both Clark and Bruce attend, meeting each other while Clark tries to discredit Batman, and Bruce snoops around, trying to find dirt on Lex, since Bruce uncovered data that Lex was contracting a Russian weapons trafficker. He manages to get encrypted data on metahumans, only for it to be stolen by a mysterious woman, Diana Prince, played by Gal Gadot, though she later returns it, telling him that she was trying to get a hold of a particular picture that belongs to her, that she believed that Lex had in her possession. Bruce is also interested in the kryptonite as well, wanting to use it against Superman, and so Batman breaks into LexCorp to steal the kryptonite that Lex has. And Batman has a dream about a world run by a fascist Superman, which means that he basically just dreamed up the Injustice games. And he's awoken from that dream by a red blur who tells him that Lois Lane is the key, and that he has to find the others. I swear to God, if Batman v Superman ties into the Cartmel master plan, I'm gonna be really impressed, but really pissed off. The government invites Superman to a congressional hearing headed by Finch, which he attends, but a bomb goes off, killing everyone there except for him, and Superman goes into self-imposed exile due to his failure to save the people. Not like he really cared about that during Man of Steel, but whatever. Lex, once Senator Finch is dead, gains access to Zod's technology and a Kryptonian birthing matrix that he uses to make a monster using Zod's and his own DNA. Batman repurposes the kryptonite into a battle suit, spear, and grenade launcher while Lex pieces together Superman's identity, reveals that he had manipulated both Batman and Superman into hating each other, and kidnaps Martha Kent, telling Superman that if he ever wants to see her alive again, it's simple. He kills the Batman. Superman goes to Gotham and they duke it out, though Superman to his credit at least tries to explain to Batman that his mother is being held hostage. Eventually Batman almost wins, but Superman tells him that Lex will kill Martha, which is the name of Batman's mother too, because... I don't know, writers were super uncreative back then and liked to reuse names. On MASH, they had like 6 characters named Mildred. Potter's wife, Henry's wife before they settled on Lorraine, Trapper's former Chicago Flame from Adam's Ribs. Wait, I feel like I had a point. Oh yeah, Batman at that point realizes that the real enemy is Lex Luthor, and they go off to fight him, and he releases his monster, which he calls Doomsday. Not that one. I mean, it technically is, but I won't justify it by comparing the two. Batman and Superman join forces against it, getting some unexpected, and by that I mean totally expected help from Wonder Woman. The 3 of them manage to hold off Doomsday long enough for Lois to retrieve the spear and allow Superman to kill Doomsday, getting himself killed in the process due to weakness from the proximity to kryptonite. Oh no, Superman is dead! How will they ever go on? He's gonna be back in the next movie, isn't he? They have a funeral for him and everyone is sad. Bruce intimidates Lex in prison, and Bruce begins setting up a plan for a league dedicated to preserving justice. First things first, Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. Her parts of the movie are the only good parts, and it is a crime that she only gets to suit up and fight during the climax. Plus, we get that one joke when she shows up.
She with you?
I thought she was with you.
Seriously, that's the one joke in the entire movie that's funny, and it took nearly the entire running time to get it. In addition, the Batman suit looks pretty awesome, both the armor and the regular suit. I'm not a fan of Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, but in the ranking of Batman movie costumes, this one ranks miles ahead of Joel Schumacher's Bat Nipples, and the live-action rendition that they have here works. Speaking of Batman, Ben Affleck isn't that bad as Bruce Wayne. I like that instead of the general playboy, we're getting an older Bruce Wayne who's already been Batman for a while. This feels like somewhere in the middle where he's not cranky old Bruce Wayne from Batman Beyond yet, but he's getting there. It's a nice change from the previous Batman films to be sure, and a welcome one at that. Jeremy Irons as Alfred is another rare example of perfect casting in this movie, and he has the personality, snarkiness, and sarcasm of the one from the DC animated universe, which is by far my favorite Alfred. I'm hoping to see a hell of a lot more of him from Justice League. And the fact that Lex manipulated them into fighting is actually a decent explanation for why 2 heroes would hate each other. I prefer them as friends, but at least they explained it. I am also happy that the movie culminated in a pretty awesome team-up battle, even if it did occur way too late in the movie for my liking. And the score is pretty awesome too. It's Hans Zimmer, so it's gonna be good either way. It does feel like a score for a superhero movie, so it has that going for it. And Hans Zimmer has never composed anything horrible. Oh yeah, he did do that, didn't he? Well, the Batman v Superman score was pretty good regardless, and it's actually a really good sequel to Man of Steel, in that it fixes absolutely none of the problems that I had with that movie. Other than that... we'll be right back or something. Roll commercial. And we're back. I've really got to stop staying up so late to write these episodes. premise is inherently flawed, and a lot of the premises in this are half-baked. While I like that there's an explanation for why Batman and Superman hate each other, it just doesn't make logical sense that Lex could manipulate the both of them like that. Batman and Superman aren't idiots, usually. So the fact that Batman, a so-called detective, couldn't just invite Superman to have a rational discussion is stupid. Not to mention that a lot of the stuff in this goes against Superman's usual portrayal of a paragon of good. Not to say that we can't change narratives to fit the time, but Justice League really wants to make us believe that Superman stood for hope, and based on this movie and Man of Steel, I really don't see that. Speaking of breaking rules of characters, Batman uses guns. He didn't shoot a person with it, just a gas line, but I still don't like it. Batman just holding a gun and pointing it at a criminal was enough to get Bruce Wayne to give up the cape and cowl in Batman Beyond, so this doesn't really gel with my idea of Batman's morals and ideals. Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor is an example of horrible casting. Not only is that scene of him at the gala where he introduces Clark and Bruce laughable for all the wrong reasons, but it honestly feels like Eisenberg thought he was playing the Joker, especially with the voice.
Boys, Bruce Wayne meets Clark Kent. I love it. I love bringing people together. How are we?
Admittedly, the Lex Luthor I grew up with was Clancy Brown, who knows exactly how to play villains, so I might be biased. It's very hard to screw up Lex Luthor, and somehow this movie managed to do it. The simplest archetypal character in all of comics, and they screwed it up. Also, what was even with that random dream fake-out with the Flash? Is that supposed to be a reference to Crisis on Infinite Earths where Barry showed up to Batman during his death run before it actually occurred? Between this and Doomsday, that's two famous references here of much better versions of these characters. Speaking of, Doomsday looks like a bootleg orc. Admittedly, the comic version of the character doesn't look all that much better, but this Doomsday doesn't look threatening. He looks doofy. And the callbacks and Easter eggs, they're not cute, they're stupid. We've only known Superman for 2 movies, so cribbing the death of Superman with Doomsday doesn't really have the narrative punch that the comic arc had. In fact, no superhero death has had the same punch since Death of Superman, so we should probably stop doing them, especially for shock value. Same with the bit at the end where Lex is bald in prison. It doesn't matter because I don't see this ass clown as Lex Luthor. Oh, he's bald, neat Easter egg, that's entirely pointless. Jesse Eisenberg shouldn't have been Lex Luthor in the first place. And the color palette, dear God, can we get some bright colors and not wash everything out next time? I mean, I shouldn't have to tell you what's wrong with this movie. It's so glaringly obvious. The story is garbage. The characters are pretty damn unlikable, except for a very select few. Superman and Batman are wildly out of character, even for these darker versions of them. And then the movie ends with a shock death that means absolutely nothing. Superman will not die permanently. We learned that in 1993. But more importantly, you do not pull this stunt in your second goddamn movie. You want this to work? If Superman Returns, which was ostensibly a sequel of the Richard Donner Superman movies, did that, I'd give it a pass because we have predecessors to build up to it. There is no build-up for this. It's like if the first ever theatrical Flash movie was Flashpoint. Oh, god damn it! Not to mention the shock death of Jimmy friggin' Olsen. Just go ahead and destroy everything I love about the Superman mythos while you're at it, Zack Snyder. Finally, and I save this for last because it's a minor thing, but Lex Luthor pees in a jar as a joke. Well, in a perfect world, we wouldn't have Man of Steel to bog down what's needed in this movie, but we're living in the darkest timeline, so I'll have to deal. First and foremost, it shouldn't be Batman v Superman. It should be Batman and Superman. Have them clash over ideals, sure. Batman uses force and Superman uses hope. Batman is a vigilante and Superman is a sanctioned hero, usually. So if they clash over methods, that would be alright. They shouldn't hate each other. They're friends. And I think that's what these filmmakers keep forgetting. Superheroes can be friends. Just look at the Marvel Universe. Give us the Clark and Bruce who meet for the first time, figure out each other's identities immediately, Bruce through deduction and Clark through extra X-ray vision. Maybe they do get into a huge fight at first. Maybe Lex did manipulate them by framing each of them for a slight against the other. And maybe Diana shows up to mediate it. Speaking of Diana, she should show up and be involved way earlier. And then, when they figure out who the real baddie is, they all go against Lex. If they're married to the Zod orc, then yeah, let Lex do that, but don't have the endgame be Superman's death. Have the endgame be the three heroes, new allies who just beat Lex by the skin of their teeth, decide that if something bigger were to happen, they would need more than just the three of them. They need to round up all the other metahumans and form some sort of league to fight for justice. Personally, I'd give Lex the exosuit like in the comics and have him and Superman go at it. And because kryptonite is his big weakness, Batman and Wonder Woman would pick up the slack to take down Lex. Keep in all the snarky Alfred stuff, the world-weary Bruce, the utterly brilliant Gal Gadot performance, but recast Lex. Eisenberg, maybe someone like Bryan Cranston, or if they really wanted to get someone capable of being menacing and funny, Neil McDonough, who is Damien Dark over on Arrow and Legends, and he is scary good. He would be able to pull off the menace and stature needed to be Lex, but he can also be really funny in a way that Eisenberg couldn't quite pull off. We could even keep the subplot about the government looking for oversight with Superman. That makes sense, and in most iterations, Superman and other metahumans do work for the government in some capacity. The JLI saved Reagan once, so the stuff with Senator Finch and Superman would work. Oh, and saturate the color palette a little bit to give some color to it. At least for Superman's parts. If they wanted to do a really neat effect to show the difference and have Batman's solo scenes be dark and washed out, with Superman's being bright, and then the fight scenes change depending on who's winning, with the entire film eventually being bright by the end, that would have been a really super interesting and novel effect. And come on, more intentional comedy. Lex with Lex Luthor, where I'm not even sure if he's supposed to be coming off as funny, and more with Bruce and Clark. Let Batman give one-liners. The DCAU was able to make Batman dark and funny, so this film has no excuse. I think if the film had taken some of these pointers and had some of the effort that went into Wonder Woman, the DC Extended Universe might have had a leg to stand on against Marvel. But as it stands... And that was Batman v Superman: Dawn of a Hopefully Better Movie. And it was an ordeal. Sitting through that thing was bad enough the first time, but at least I didn't know how bad it was the first time around. Justice League has got to be better than this, because I don't think it's possible for anything to be worse. I've just doomed us all, haven't I? I apologize in advance for that. Apart from Gal Gadot, Jeremy Irons, and I can't believe I'm saying this, Ben Affleck, the movie has little to offer and is a clusterfuck of half-baked ideas mixed in with grim and gritty visuals and storylines. Does it have its positives? Yes. Could it have been better? Oh, hell yes. That's sort of why I do this show, to show you that things could be better. But what we got was not the superhero movie we deserved, and it sure as hell wasn't the superhero movie that we needed right now. Is Justice League that movie? Based on the fact that reviews were embargoed, probably not. But I'm gonna stay positive. And at the very least, if the DC Extended Universe fails, we might be able to get Clark, Bruce, and Diana in on the CW Arrowverse. Anyway, that's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to see more of how to fix it, you can hit that subscribe button. And if you have any comments or complaints about the video, you can put those in the comments section below. Oh, and if you want to be notified of new uploads, you can hit that bell icon. And if you enjoyed this video, show it to your friends and share it around the internet. And maybe consider supporting the show on Patreon. See you next time. I need to go watch some better sequels. Hey, that gives me an idea. God, when was the last time I got this mad at a video I did? What is that? Oh, sliders, yeah. Okay. Not to mention the shock death of Jimmy friggin' Olsen. Just go ahead and destroy everything I love about Superman. No. I need to go back. We're gonna start this at the beginning.